If you change your mind, you change your life, just change your mind. The Lord loves you. He's standing with his arms wide open for you. Oh, be encouraged, 'cause this day's for you. Don't you let this opportunity pass by you. Yeah. Oh, change your mind.
Good evening, everybody. This is Pastor Wendell Jones, and welcome to another episode of The Relevant Church. Here in this programming, we are trying to do just what the title says, to be relevant, meaning that we want to touch some topics that sometimes we might be a little hands-off on or skirt around. Sometimes those topics are a little uncomfortable, but just because they're uncomfortable does not mean they are not necessary. We believe they are necessary. And so we're going to exercise some courage and talk about some stuff and put ourselves in positions and zones of conversation where, truth be told, we may not even know the answer, but at least we're having the conversation. My whole goal with this show is not to give you all the answers, but to spark the need for conversation, that when we sign off, you continue your conversations there. And so we hope that somehow we find a way to be a blessing to you today. And so today, I've got three wonderful people with me because we're going to talk about a subject that keeps popping up in church conversations, and they need to be had. The topic for today is the millennials and faith, that millennial generation, that age group from 22 to 38, that everybody's talking about, not just church people, but people in the marketplace and what have you, trying to figure out how to reach this millennial group. And they have incredible influence, incredible power, and God can use them mightily. And so it ought to be incumbent upon the church to make sure that we find a way to reach, to hold on to be of value to. And so that's what I want to explore today. And so I've got three people, and all three of these are members of my church. So, and we're not trying to make a little bias, but they're wonderful to me. But they're honest. They're honest people. And so I'm expecting some good spirited conversation today. We got Kenneth Page with us. I'm so glad to have him doing some wonderful work in our youth ministry, and all of these have been in our youth ministry as well. We have Miss Kathy Mitchell. So y'all wave so people know who you are, and Miss Ronshica Jenkins. And I'm so excited to talk to y'all. And I hadn't seen y'all. I miss y'all. Well, how y'all doing? I know that wasn't the first question I told y'all to ask you, but how y'all doing?
Better.
Better? Hey, that's a good word.
I'm gonna say better too. It was tough at first, but yeah, better.
Yeah. What's been tough about this, y'all?
So
There's
much
been
stuff.
a lot of changes just thrust out of the blue, and it's really, upset your schedules, upset your lives, and then you have family members and friends in different situations. Some people dying, people losing their jobs, being displaced from homes. And then you also have, there's a group of people that, somehow flourish through this COVID season. So you got a mixture of feelings. On one hand, you want to be excited for the growth and development and the prosperity of others. But in the same token, you got people that is on the exact opposite of it. So it's been an emotional roller coaster, ups and downs. It's been a whirlwind. But, I agree with Ronshica and Kathy. You get better. You just go through it, you adjust to it, you learn how to take it day by day, one at a time, get back on track with your goals and things you want to do. And it's getting better.
Oh, Sheikah, I think you were about to say something there.
Yes, with the so many deaths happening and me having COVID, thinking I'm about to die, and it was a roller coaster, but I'm better, much better.
Oh, that's wonderful.
My mind is much better.
I tell you what, if COVID hadn't done anything, it's pushed us in the direction of being thinkers, being more thoughtful, being more appreciative, realizing that, man, this thing ain't promised to none of us.
Right.
COVID wasn't checking credit reports, wasn't reading driver's license. It didn't care how old you were. It didn't care what side of town you lived on. If it wanted to come kicking your door, it did. And so if we weren't touched personally, um, where it affected us and our own person, it affected somebody we love. And Sheikah, we're so glad that you came through that. It's a monster. I had my little bout with it. It's a monster, but God has been good. Guys, I want y'all to lighten up. I want you to be yourself. I need the people to see your personalities. If I don't see your personalities, I'm gonna call you out because I know who you are. Yeah, Kathy, get ready. Because let's just talk. Let's just talk. I've given y'all a big task tonight, and that is to represent this huge populace known as the millennials. And it seems like everybody's stalking and pursuing y'all for a variety of reasons, and the church isn't any different, shouldn't be any different. We need to be influential in your lives too. But let me just throw this out there and let's just talk, because I want to hear from all of you. And even if your thoughts are similar, still share them, and we're gonna just roll with it from here. I was looking at some statistics the other day, and the stats say that 6 out of 10 people who are considered to be millennials, 6 out of 10 of these people, and these are people, y'all, that came up in church. These aren't unchurched people, but these people grew up in church. 6 out of those 10 leave the church, throw up the deuces, and they're done with it. Y'all talk amongst yourselves. Help this old head, this Generation Xer, to understand, so I can be a better pastor to the millennials. What's happening?
Well, this is what I think it is. Well, I think it's fake love in the church. While we're at church, it's love and all of that most of the time. But when we're out of church, you don't call, you don't show up, you don't pull up, you don't invite. And I'm not saying that you have to invite everybody, but I think that us as millennials, we pay attention to that. We pay attention to you showing up, you being there, you asking us how we doing. If we see you out somewhere, you not speaking. But at church on Sunday, you were speaking and listening. Hey, no.
Okay. She got through the first punch. Come on. Fake love.
For me, I can definitely agree with what Ronshica is saying. Also, I believe sometimes, especially with the older churches, like some of the churches now are gearing themselves towards the millennials or the young people, but the older churches don't have anything for the millennials to come back to. When you come back from college, I know when I came back, it was like, it's boring. I don't want to be here. And I know in college, it's easier for me not to go to church. So when I came back, if there's nothing for me when I get back, if y'all talking about the stuff that I'm going through right now, because I just got from college, I've been doing a lot of stuff. I need to hear about the truth. And if y'all not talking about that, or y'all don't have people that are close to my age or been a little bit through what I've been through and willing to talk about it, I don't want to be here because we talking about the same old thing, hooping and hollering. And I don't want to hear that. I didn't want to hear it when I got out of school. Now I love a little hoop now. I don't. For me, that's for me though.
Okay. Sheikah says she don't want none. Okay,
No.
all right. Okay, KP.
For me, one of the things that I noticed is like, the message that we're taught in church growing up doesn't necessarily line up with what we're actually dealing with and going through with life. And what I mean by that is like, I grew up going to church a lot, especially when I was at my grandparents' house. They were habitual churchgoers, 5, 6, 7 days a week kind of people. And it's like, I don't remember nothing what the pastor taught. Just to be honest, like I heard it, I don't remember what the pastor was talking about, but I remember what people in the church told me. I remember how they taught me. I remember what they said was right, wrong, acceptable, unacceptable. And when I was growing up, it was raised in this thing like, be perfect, you can't sin, you got to do the right thing, you got to make the right choices, so God will bless you and all that stuff. And then they really isolated down to sex and drugs. That's really what they really be perpetuating, just that message. Don't be promiscuous, don't do drugs. Okay, well, what about all that other stuff y'all be doing? And y'all just bypass that, and then we get into the church as adults, and like we're dealing with stuff. I mean, when you're a teenager, adolescent, your hormones raging, you're more willing to take a lot more risk. And if I go back to what I've been taught and raised on, you're telling me, I'm not acceptable to God, I'm not usable to God, I shouldn't be in churches, I'm bringing all this sin in the house. And it's like, well, when I took it upon myself to do my own Bible study as I got older, I'm like, what I learned about God in the Bible and how He deals with us and expects of us ain't the message that you preaching and portraying to us. So it's like when we get older and we get hit with life in the real world and these deep internal issues and stuff like that, it's like there's no place in church for this. There's no place to talk about it. You telling me not to have sex, but I'm horny as all get out, and it's a natural feeling. But how I'm gonna talk about this in church? How I'm gonna get some help in dealing with this stuff when you just cutting it off? And it's like, okay. And then you talk about that. And another thing, especially as a Black person, as we've gotten older and we see all this stuff going on and all these things about, racism, then you go back to the conversation about slavery. And it talks about, Black Christians worshiping the God that the white masters gave us. Sorry from going all up in here, but it's like, there's a whole lot of education that needs to come around that. Because if you're in your 20s and you're Black and then you're looking at everything going on in the world, you're seeing the racism, you're dealing with it, and then you see a message that's talk about why you gonna worship your slave master's God. On the surface, that's like, that makes a lot of sense. But then there's no like education behind it. There's no deeper conversations into it, because that's a real intellectual hump that we got to get over. So that's where I see it.
That was a lot. Let's talk about some of this, y'all. Let's go back to Shika. Shika talk about this fake love. That one way on Sunday, another way in the streets, right?
Yes.
And it sounded to me, Shika, that you rattle off a couple things. You like, basically you want to be checked on, want them to give you a call, what have you. And I get that. That's a human need. But let me push back just a little bit on that.
Okay.
And just let me ask this question. How much of that is two-way? Or is there an expectation from the millennials that, I guess we older folks should take the initiative? I mean, what is that? Talk to me about that.
It is a two-way street.
And not just Shika, anybody can talk about it.
It
Go
is
ahead,
a
Shika.
two-way street all the way. It's a two-way street. It is. But I think that some millennials feel as if, okay, if you offer correction, the same mouth that offers correction to me, if I'm doing something wrong, or offers not even correction, sometimes even condemnation, you should be the same voice to pick up the phone and say, hey, how you doing? What is there something I need to pray with you with?
Absolutely.
Talk
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with that. So I get that. Even scripture talks about that. It talks about have a readiness to bring correction, but make sure you're corrected in the area you're correcting in. But also I think it's more basic than that. It's really the core of a relationship. Nobody wants anybody just to show up to tell them they're wrong.
right.
Am I correct?
Correct.
Yeah. And I understand that I grew up in the church along with you guys. That was typically the church that we came out of And I think many of us are still trying to get that church to come out of us. Because another piece of human nature is you do what you've seen. It's just called conditioning. But that is not making an excuse at all. I absolutely agree with you that if we're gonna have relationship, let's have relationship. Let's have all of it. Do you feel like millennials or open to that outside of their age group? I'm assuming that a lot of times the correction comes from people that are older than you. Do you think the millennials are open to that kind of relationship, or make it difficult to connect?
Ooh.
Anybody can answer.
I think we'd be like open to it with some consistency, just like any relationship. And it's like, as a millennial age group coming into church, and we're coming into an older population, there's an expectancy. It's like, y'all the seasoned saints, we babies in this thing. The burden should be on y'all to reach out to us. And not that that's right or wrong, but I feel like that's kind of like an expectancy. Like, you're older, you've been there, you should at least initially pick up the burden of this relationship. I know my closest mentors that I have, like, now, it's more of a two-way street of reaching out to them. But in the beginning, when it started, it was more so them continuously reaching out to me to build and cultivate that relationship. And even now, switched over, I'm a coach and a mentor and whatnot. I understand that if I wait for these kids to always reach out to me, they probably only gonna do it when they really get into some stuff. But if I want to know how they doing, it's up to me to continuously reach out to them, check on them, and sometimes it's like just shoot the text message, hey, what's up? Thinking about you, how you doing? So I feel like when it translates to church, like, there's a feel like, y'all, if you say it's important, show it in your actions.
Gotcha. Ladies, y'all got some thoughts on that?
I basically, agree with both of them as far as it is a two-way street. But like KP said, I know with being in the youth ministry, you have to reach out first because you really trying to build that relationship with them and know for them to know that this is a God thing that you're trying to do. You're trying to instill in them what you wanted instilled in you. And I can work on that actually. Now that y'all talking about it, I can work on reaching out more to the youth that I haven't reached out to since this has all happened. So I understand that when we was in church, it took me first saying, hey y'all, what's up? To build those relationships, to make them want to come to me when things were going on. But it is a two-way street too. Like, and it became a two-way street. Like, they started reaching out, hey Miss Kathy, how you doing? They would reach out sometimes. And I needed that too. But yeah, Sheikah and KP are right. Sometimes it feel like fake love. It may be they don't know how to build them relationships, or it's really fake, or they just don't want real relationships like that with us.
Do you think there's some sentiment similar to that back toward y'all, that y'all fake?
I may be seen as fake. I ain't been reaching out enough. I'm gonna be honest.
No, I'm talking about from those people that y'all said that ought to be reaching out to you. Do you think there's some sentiment that y'all really don't want it?
No, I want it. No, me, I want it bad.
I mean, I know you want it, but what do you think that they think of y'all? Or y'all can ask me, because I guess I'm in that group. And again, y'all can ask me.
Tell us from your generation.
Imagine from us with these gray hairs. Honestly, guys, I think a lot of folk approach y'all pretty gingerly, because it's different. It's for my generation. I think you were really taught and drilled in your head that there was this reverence that you paid to people that were older than you. That's not so common with your generation. And some of the experiences that this generation has had with you in trying to connect with you hadn't always been favorable. And I think some of the things that we don't realize, I think sometimes that y'all don't realize too. And I try to explain to a lot of people, especially when it's one-on-one, trying to resolve something, being a mediator, is that I think people forget sometimes that when you showed up, somebody already had a full plate. And now there's no, that people forget that sister so and so or brother so and so got a whole life over there. And you're like, well, you ought to be making time for me. And they're like, you have no idea what's going on in my life. And so sometimes as a pastor, I'm sitting in a position where I know what's going on in that person's life. I know what's going on in Kathy's life. I know what's going on in Deacon so-and-so's life, or Deaconess so-and-so's life. And I know they want to get together, but I can't go tell Kathy what's happening over there. And I can't go tell Deaconess what's going on with Kathy. That Kathy, it doesn't have an attitude. Kathy's just going through, and I know what she's going through. And so a lot of times I see that, and I'm watching folks act like ships in the night, just passing each other, when in reality, they got a whole world going on. Got a whole world. And so sometimes what we call fake ain't fake, is that you're witnessing trauma and you don't even know it. You're witnessing somebody that's doing everything in their power to even show up. And sometimes that's part of the hardest things as a pastor to watch. And I try to facilitate some stuff sometimes. Hey, just go sit down with them. Just, hey, invite her to lunch. Just invite her to lunch. You know, and I try to do some of that without divulging what's really going on. Because you got to imagine, I carry a ton of secrets. I know a lot of stuff that's going on. And a lot of times, um, the judgment that the millennials feel like they get from um, the Xers and boomers is the same judgment that the millennials give to them. You know, and so I wish, one of the things I want to do as a pastor uh, is try to instill in us to give each other the benefit of the doubt. That if I have not had a conversation with you, woe unto me to decide what's going on with you. I got to be real slow to go, that's fake, or the older folk going, they don't want to deal with us. They think they know everything, or they're above correction. They don't respect us. All that little stuff that comes at y'all, and all that stuff y'all throw at them. You be like, y'all so much alike, it's ridiculous that y'all would get along if y'all can quit hurling stereotypes at each other. I'm done. What y'all say to
Repeat
that?
like those last two sentences you broke up a little bit, so I wanted to hear what
I
you said.
said
the last two sentences.
y'all are so much more alike if y'all could just stop hurling stereotypes at each other
Okay.
just for a minute. And guys, I'm gonna tell you, listen, and I absolutely get what KP, Shika, and you, Kathy, said. Like, well, our expectation is that you are a seasoned saint. That's the word y'all use. And so you ought to take the initiative. And then Kathy said something wonderful. She's like, well, wait a minute. I got teenagers that look at me as a seasoned saint. And I'm not taking the initiative. Why not? Because I got stuff going on. But we forget that the ones that are older us, seasoned does not mean I don't have stuff. Right?
Yeah.
And so I'm hoping, I'm not, and trust me, I'm not trying to blow up what you're saying. I completely hear what you're saying. And we're going to try to hit it from both sides. But I want us, like I said, to learn to give each other the benefit of the doubt. And if you want it, it's like with anything else, go get it. All right. What's going on there with Kathy and Shika? Y'all can't hear me? What's going on? Your phone about to go dead? What?
A little bit.
Huh?
But phone is on 20%. I'll be right back.
Okay. Comments, thoughts about that. Talk to me.
With that being said, and that's absolutely true, because I can also do a lot better with the young people in my charge. But it's like, when it comes to that benefit of the doubt stuff, I think it falls back on each individual involved to have a level of openness, honesty, and transparency and vulnerability. And I think a lot of that is missing. And sometimes it's even shunned away. Pastor, I remember when I first started going to your church, and, I stood up on Wednesday nights and just being real, brutally raw and honest. And I appreciated you for receiving it, but it was people in the church that looked at me like I was crazy or sinful for being that kind of open and honest in the church. So it's like, we want to give each other the benefit of the doubt and recognize that thing. But again, when we start talking about it, it's a problem.
Well, you just said it wasn't a problem, and it's a problem. And see, and that's the thing. This is the thing I want us to realize too, because I bet we can get 10, 15 of your friends together, and you give the same statement that you gave in church, and some of them be feeling you, and some of them think something wrong with you. The reason I say that is that's not age specific. That's people specific. Everybody ain't ready to hear that. and I think that's something that we got to be okay with. Y'all sit there with me, and I'm up there, and I'm being transparent and vulnerable in front of y'all. And I got some of y'all. Sometimes my transparency causes people to leave the church. But the reality of it is that I know transparency is something that I need, and we're never, y'all, gonna get unanimous support. They're just not. And you got to realize that the folks that are sitting out there that you just mentioned, KP, they are all at different places in their lives. Different places in their lives.
Pastor Jones
I give it. What'd you say, Shika?
I said Pastor Jones helping increase our grace.
I mean, it's different because, okay, let's be real personal. Watch this. Let me show you something. I'm gonna use the three of y'all right here. And this here comes some transparency. When my divorce was announced, Kathy and Shika had a harder time with that than you did, KP. And here's why. Because you were in the same thing. Life had sensitized you to me, and it had not sensitized them. And they were hurt. Kathy and I appreciate Kathy because we had some conversations about it. But I also understood Kathy too. She was disappointed. She was disappointed. And I get that. But your approaches to me were different because of where you were coming from and where your expectations were coming from and what life had dealt to you. And so y'all could see my moment differently. Am I right about that?
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And so that's something you got to live with. And like in my own situation, I hope to God I'll never have to do something like that ever again, where you got to divulge a very personal matter in front of people who make it their personal matter, but they don't go through the pain of it. It's an incredibly difficult time, and you don't have the ability to go around explaining yourself to everybody, and you really shouldn't. And so in your case, KP, and this is what I would encourage all of y'all with: stop looking for the bad reaction. Look for the ones that's receptive, because those are the ones that can help you. Those who react poorly, they're not in the place to help you. And so really it's a blessing to be able to recognize that and recognize that soon, so you don't waste your time trying to appease or appeal to somebody who doesn't have the level of sensitivity to where you are right now. Does that make sense, y'all?
It does, sir.
My conversation with you, Kathy, was totally different than my conversation with Ken. But it was because we were coming from two different situations. There was disappointment on all of it, and I get it. I get one of the frustrations of the millennial church is that y'all want the church to hold a standard. Y'all want leaders in the church to hold a standard, even if it's a standard that you're not ready to live up to yourself. I get that. I get that.
True.
Mhm. I get as a leader. I get as a leader. Y'all want to be human, and y'all want your leaders to be super. I understand, even though it ain't realistic.
It's not.
But what we have to do over time is sometimes have to the older folks that they come off, we can come off callous and cold and know-it-alls. I think when in reality, you just have to give the younger group time to grow into it. Because it may not now because life, tell me this. Has life ever changed your view on stuff that you was really staunch on before, and then you had something in life that made you go, maybe I was wrong.
A lot of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they say experience is one of the worst teachers. I don't know if I believe that anymore. Sometimes it takes experience to soften your heart to some stuff.
Yeah.
And to do like Shika said, grace.
Yeah.
Grace. And you know, I've taught y'all that grace from God's perspective is God's willingness to come into your life, come into your situation. If we're gonna give grace to people, it means the same for us. I gotta be willing to come in closer so I can quit trying to make conclusions from afar and find out really what's going on so I can learn. And then we can have this relationship of reciprocity. Because like I said, y'all have so much more in common than the people that are people older than y'all really believe. But we think there's this gap. And Solomon told us, hey, ain't nothing new under the sun. It ain't. Them same old deacons and mothers of the church, KP, that were acting like we shouldn't be talking about being horny. Them same old ones was screwing left and right back in their day. And now they too old to be chased. And not I tell folk all the time, man. I get so I promise y'all, I get mad at the other folk too. They try to get on y'all about stuff. I like, they ought to be abstaining. They all be abstaining like me. I said, I'll be sitting there saying under my breath, you abstaining because ain't nobody chasing you. Let somebody come after that tail and see what you act like. but that's not endorsing it. So people don't send me no emails and no stuff, no ugly little letters.
Email, let's just go ahead and talk about it.
But I like ministering from a place of reality. And reality ain't pretty. It's ugly and it's challenging and it's tempting. It's all those things. And let's talk about. Let's spend our last few minutes with that. So, what should we be talking about in the church that'll make the millennials go,
Sex.
You said sex? Because y'all heard me talk about it. But tell me what you want to talk. Tell me in what context should we be talking about sex?
I think that the church has made sex so negative. Talk about the positives of sex, what sex does, how sex within a marriage is good and it feels good, and because nobody talks about that. They just talk about, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that, you don't need to do this. No, talk about make it enticing for millennials to abstain. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's something to look forward to. Tell them how it is when it's in a marriage. Then don't be looking all boring and stiff with each other when you get in a marriage. Then.
Wait, I'm sorry, Shika. They supposed to be looking sexually active. Y'all want to look at the folks and go, oh, y'all getting it on at the house, but I can tell.
Now I'm ready to hear that.
Now you're ready to get married. Like, oh, that's what it is. Hey.
I mean, on that same note, you got in the Bible the Song of Solomon, and that's what there's a lot of that in that book, and No, you don't hear globally preachers coming out of that book often.
No. Yeah, we play with it a little bit. We're gonna actually deal with it a lot in February. But yeah. So y'all be there. Y'all make sure y'all stream because we're gonna talk about some stuff for the whole month of February. But you know, I think sometimes y'all might think that it gets perfect once you get married. No, nah. It's a little harder because now you're trying to be sexy and responsible. You're trying to be appealing and take care of family stuff.
Hmm.
But I hear what you're saying. So we need to talk about sex and talk about how wonderful it is in marriage. Well, let's be honest. A lot of times it's difficult in marriage because of all the sex we did before we got there. I'm gonna let that sit out there for a minute.
You know, Pastor, before I was getting married, um, I had a lot of people talk to me about not having sex before marriage. And I would always ask this question: did you do it?
Hmm.
And I never found anyone to say, yeah, I abstained. We didn't have sex before marriage.
I know a very small group, but it also thrusts you in the difficulties of because I did not abstain. But the reality of it is that because you didn't abstain, you come in with expectations. You're coming with expectations that somebody else gave you, and you're trying to impose them on the person that you say you love more than anybody else. Yeah, look at them faces.
Mhm.
And see, people don't explain that part to you because you're like, I get it, Kay. You said earlier, you look, we're horny, it's biological, it's natural. It absolutely is. It is. And a lot of stuff that we don't realize is that the stuff that we just had a ball doing is that when we want to settle down and do it right. I'm in love with the Lord now. I found my helpmeet, my spouse. You don't get amnesia. And your heart might be feeling them, but your body's still remembering them. And so now you're trying to oftentimes make this this hodgepodge, trying to bring the best pieces of your best experiences and put them in this one person to deliver that to you on a consistent basis. And if you listen to what I'm saying, it's even the notion of that you're coming from a selfish place. You serve me.
I have a question.
Give it to me.
So a lot of people did not abstain. A lot of people didn't, like KP said. So how do you deal with that when you get married?
Mhm.
Because I know I'm a remember. I remember without doing it now. So when I get into marriage, how do I not put that expectation on my husband to fulfill me like somebody else did? How do you deal with that?
I'll be hon- that was a big concern of mine in my marriage, and I had some good advice that at the time didn't seem like I was like that's very churchy, but it proved to be very very true. Uh, God really respects the intentionality of your prayers and the sincerity of your heart, and so that became because I was a good deal more active than Nita was, and so uh, but at the same time I had a heart that I did not want her to feel compared. And so that became a focus of my prayer life, a literal focus of my prayer life. Begging God, don't help me not to bring that up in the moment. Think about this, that, or the other. And
Yeah.
y'all might think I'm just being a preacher. I ain't gonna lie, it works.
Hmm.
It works. When you ask God to clean your heart, restore your heart, and you know you're doing it for the right reason, because you want sex in the context of your marriage to have a fair shot. Gotta do that thing. Now, does it automatically all go away? No, no. But there's a grace that comes with it. There's patience that comes with it. There's the enjoyment of this person having this person alone. There's actually an enjoyment with that. Most people feel like that won't be the case. Like if you used to being able to have multiple people and what have you, how am I gonna get over that? There is a place in you that desires that. And you have to ask God to bring that place to the surface. You have to tell God, help me do this. Help me think like this, feel like this, so that I can protect the heart of my spouse. But also that I can get this mess out of me because I know I was wrong for this. I was wrong for this. Can you wash me? Because you said you can wash me. I mean, read scripture and everything. You promised to wash me. So God, I need you to get this out of here because I don't need me and a committee of people in my bedroom. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But if you don't deal with it, if you don't deal with it with some intentionality, it comes with you.
Mm-hmm.
And most people can feel when you with them, but you ain't with them. Did y'all hear that?
Yeah.
Most people can
I
feel
heard
when
you
you
say,
are with them, but you're not with them.
Yes, sir.
hmm What else y'all want to talk about? It's all. It's for the next 5 minutes. It's y'all. Y'all can ask whatever y'all want.
I guess not really a question, but I do want to provide like some pushback against the millennial generation or against people that don't come to church. Because I also think despite, all the hurdles and stuff that might cause us to not want to show up, there's a personal responsibility for yourself to cultivate your own relationship with God, through prayer, through studying the Bible. So it's also like, we can't show up to church with all these complaints, this, that, and the third, but never put any personal application or reaching on our part. Like, you can't go Monday through Saturday completely not focused on God or the church at all, and then think it's all just gonna come together on one day. So I do think in that aspect, like we as individuals, like, sometimes you got to, turn that TV off, turn the game off. I ain't gonna go out today. You know what? Tonight I'm gonna set aside this time to study. Tonight I'm gonna set aside this time to pray. So I think it's also some personal responsibility on us because if 6 out of 10 left and didn't come back, there's still 4 out of 10 of us who's still in the church. And we're still in the church for a reason. And you look at Kathy, Ronshica, and myself, we're involved in the church. We serve the church, and that requires personal study and a personal commitment on our part. So I still think that's important as individuals themselves.
Personal responsibility. Absolutely. Absolutely. Good point, KP. I appreciate that. What else, good people? Kathy, I saw some of your Facebook posts. You had some good stuff out there. Don't get shy now. What y'all want to ask? See, I waited till the last minute to let you do it, so you might want to take a minute. Huh?
should you see what a person has before you get married?
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Y'all gotta consult each other.
No, I have to make.
I can't hear y'all over KP laughing. Ask me again.
Kathy wants to know: is it okay to see what a person is working with before you get married to them? Does God see that as all right?
Be over there laughing. You done did the whole emotion.
So you want to know if God's okay if you test driving the product?
Not test driving it.
Yeah.
You see what's under the hood.
What was that?
You see what's under the hood.
Under the hood. Obviously, I think y'all know the answer to that. I remember seeing you post about this. And you had several people to say, they really don't really care what the Bible says. And we got some background noise a little bit, y'all, so I apologize. The reality of it is that
My phone isn't up.
the way God presents this thing is that it's supposed to wait until we get together, till we marry one another. And I'm not sure where that's coming from, but yeah, folks that are watching, y'all just bear with us. I think you're still here. We're supposed to wait till we get married to experience that. If we are to do this thing in alignment with God's word, we're supposed to wait for all of that till we get married. But the reality of it is that most of us want to, let's just be honest, you want to see what we're working with, test drive it, what have you, because of our past experiences. And Tina, see if you can get Kathy and Shika back on for us. Um, but it's our past experiences that we're trying to see if we can still maintain those appetites and get those needs met. Uh, when in reality, God's made us a promise that He would do exceedingly abundantly above all we ask a thing, that God can make this relationship, especially if it's a God-led relationship, can make this relationship everything you need. Everything you need. So the letter of the law, the letter of the word, no, we're not supposed to be doing that. We're supposed to be getting to know somebody for all these other ways that we are connected. And then that part comes later. But I understand that is a hard pill for most people to swallow because most people have already been engaged in sex and they know what they want and they want to make sure they can still get that. What you think, KP?
I think that's I think that's true. I think it's real. It makes a lot of sense. But that's like that. That's conversations that should be perpetuated in church. Like when they're going to talk to us about sex. Don't just talk to us about, oh, it's sinful, it's wrong. I mean, we already know that. Let's really get into the why of it, because I think for a lot, speaking for myself, it's not honestly just, and most of the changes I've made, it wasn't so much that I recognized that it was sin as much as I recognized how it was actually affecting my life. So it's like,
There it is. There it is.
yes, and it's like, when we say talk about sex, let's really talk about like how it's just affecting our life. And I guess the question for you, Pastor, is because that's how you teach us. That's how you talk to us, and you approach it like that. And, I'm honest. I go to church a lot, but if I didn't find your ministry, I probably wouldn't go to church a lot because, a lot of preachers don't keep it real like you do. So I guess I want to ask, like, why do you approach church the way that you do? And being a member for yours, like, I've watched people leave your ministry. I've watched people get up in the middle of the service and walk out at not wanting to receive what you were saying, but you keep coming at us in the way that you do. Like, what's your drive to do that? Because it really is different than what we're used to seeing out here.
I think it just goes back to KP, what you expressed earlier. I don't try to separate God's word, God's principles from reality. One of the things that I think frustrated me about church is that coming up, I felt like messages were always focused on how we should be, who we should be, but not the how in terms of getting to it. How do I navigate through my life, my emotions, my body, all of this stuff that's very real to me to get to this place of respectability, get to this place where God can use me, get to this place where God and I are good. And when I start reading the Bible for myself, I started reading that God was answering those questions, that God was dealing with the in between. God was dealing with David and his issues and Saul and his issues and the Bible better than any soap opera you've ever watched, any movie you've ever watched, and it does not sugarcoat the struggles of the people. And so the more I read it, KP, the more I began to realize, man, they were more like us. They more like us than what I was preached coming up. And so I just had an inclination to tell the real story, to tell the story, so that the people can see themselves in the Bible. So you can see yourself in the struggle, but also inspire you that there is a place of victory if I apply these things. You know, I didn't want it to seem like I can click my heels because that's not true. And all of a sudden that God's gonna do it. No, God's done it. God's woven the principles into life. Only thing that's left is application. And so it's been tough, KP, because it's I'm human, and so the temptation is to be like others and be entertaining more so than substantive. Because sometimes the people want that, and I get that's why people want it because they feel like they've struggled all week long and they need to be made to feel good on Sunday. I get that. That's human. I want to be made to feel good. So I take a risk by saying you'll feel good after you apply this, because to me it's a matter of integrity for me. I want to show you what I've discovered in Scripture in terms of the how, so you can actually live it. And whenever I try to venture into something else, and I've been tempted to do it, KP, God whoops my tail, bro. And he reminds me of the promises that I made to him. And he reminds me of the of not trying to be big and super and mega. Uh, he reminds me of what I promised him. I promised him that my main agenda in pastoring was not to be mega. My main agenda was to be effective. And so I think he revealed scripture to me in that manner so we can be effective. I can lay it out to you exactly what you need to do according to the word of God. And then I have to step back and go, okay, now it's on you to apply it. But yeah, I'm human, KP. I see the people walk out. I see the people get frustrated. I've had people to tell me they left our church not because they were mishandled. They left our church because it was too challenging. I have people now saying that we do too much. And I'm like, you ain't never went to holiness or Pentecostal. Because if you think we do too much, you really don't know church. Um, but I think it boils down to is that because we pursue clarity, it's hard to say you don't know what to do now. And so it's making demands on people's lives, and sometimes they're just not ready. I hope that answers your question, brother.
Mhm.
We're going a little bit longer because I had to wait for y'all to get back because I want to give y'all a shot to say something if y'all want to. I'm glad y'all made it back. Sheikah and Kathy.
Thank you.
Did y'all have anything else y'all want to say or ask before we sign off for tonight?
Oh, will we be able to do a part two? I just don't feel like this was enough. Will we be able to do a part two so that way we can ask some more questions and not at the very end because we got some more questions for you?
Did she throw a jab at me, KP? Not the very end.
Shots fired.
Well, since you asked so nicely in a non-millennial way. So respectful of the elders. No, sir. Yeah, I'll be happy to bring y'all back next month, and so we'll give you guys a heads up, and probably bring you back a few times during the year. So get your questions ready. So next time, here's what we'll do. And instead of asking, we did the preliminary stuff and found out some of the general consensus of the millennials. I'm gonna turn it over to you. And I might even pick a pastor friend to come be on board and let y'all ask and let y'all even grab another person if you like and just let y'all ask away. How about that? Was that good?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, Miss Tina gonna take y'all backstage. Don't go anywhere. I want to talk to you before you go and give me a chance to sign out for the night. Thank y'all so much for being a part of this. I really appreciate you. I love you and I miss you dearly. Looking forward to COVID releasing us so we can get back together again. All right. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Kathy is absolutely right. We just scratched the surface, and I think we found that to be our dilemma for every show. And there's enough stuff out there that we need to talk about and continue to dig a little deeper into. Um, but we do want to figure out how to connect, to do a better job, to be honest about the places that we're failing in, and places that we can just improve in. I'm never above correction, nor do I feel like we've arrived. I think we do some things pretty well, at CYM, but there's still some room for growth because we don't want to miss the millennials. We don't want to miss any subsect of our society, and we think we can reach it without um, throwing out the principles of God. God's word is transcendent, meaning that it can go over any barrier, any hurdle. It can reach any person. It's just incumbent upon us to learn how to do that. And we have to do that through relationship, get past the relationship hurdle first to prove that we can relate to one another despite the differences in ages, despite the differences in our experiences in life. In fact, we should bring that diversity together and make each other's lives a little bit more fruitful, a little better. So thank y'all again for tuning in. We hope you check us out tomorrow night as our youth ministry brings some great material for your children. We want to do that for you. Wednesday night, Pastor Jay will be with you as he breaks down the word that he preached on Sunday. And then on Thursday, we do our flashback. Flashback Thursday, pull up one of those old sermons. I've been enjoying that myself. One of those sermons I've done on the road or at our old location or whatever our media team decides to do. And then Friday, we get to showcase one of our ministers. I'm so blessed to be surrounded by such gifted and quality and committed people. And we want you to get a chance to hear them speak as well. Thank y'all so much for being a part of our show, The Relevant Church. We hope we continue to bless you and you bless us by your presence. All right, till next time, much love.